First, then I'll talk about the how many. Why do we have so many variants? Richard Bentley, in 1713, wrote a book called Remarks Upon a Discourse of Free Thinking. I've already mentioned John Mill's Greek New Testament, where he produced 30,000 textual variants. And Bentley was the first really to defend this. And what he said was, if there had been but one manuscript of the Greek Testament at the restoration of learning about 2 centuries ago, he's talking about when Erasmus did his based on 8, then we would have had no various readings at all. And would the text be in a better condition then than it is now that we have 30,000 variant readings? He goes on and says, it is good, therefore, to have more anchors than one, and another manuscript to join the first would give more authority as well as security. What Bentley was saying was that the more variants we have helps us to establish the original text. And if you had only one manuscript, there'd be no variants at all. It doesn't disagree with itself. As soon as you have 2, they have differences, 3, more and more. And consequently, we have so many manuscripts of the New Testament that just strips out anything else of the ancient Greco-Roman world, that's why we have so many variants. Greek manuscripts, we have approximately 5,800 of them. And they average in size 450 pages plus. That's the average Greek New Testament. That's an embarrassment of riches. We have over 10,000 manuscripts in Latin, which was the first language that the New Testament was translated into. And we have languages like Coptic and Syriac and Ethiopic, Georgian, Gothic, Old Church Slavonic, Armenian, Arabic, Hebrew. The New Testament was translated into so many languages and it just spread like wildfire throughout the ancient world. Conservatively, we have between 5,000 and 10,000 manuscripts in those various languages, not counting Latin. So when you look at the Greek and the virginal witnesses, it's about 20 to 25,000 manuscripts, conservatively speaking. If you had a magic wand and could destroy all those in one fell swoop, we still would not be left without a witness. And that's because of the quotations from the New Testament by the church fathers. From the late 1st century through the 13th, they have been cataloged, and we still have a long ways to go in those later centuries to catalog them. But well over 1 million quotations from the New Testament by the church fathers have already been found in both Latin and Greek. You could reconstruct virtually the entire New Testament many times over just from the quotations by the church fathers. So with all these manuscripts and versions and fathers, we have a lot of variants. The latest estimate, just on the basis of the Greek manuscripts alone, is that we have over 500,000 textual variants. And that's not even counting the nonsense readings that we see all over the place. You count a variant not by how many manuscripts agree with the wording, but just the differences in wording. So if I have 500 manuscripts on one side that say Lord and 500 manuscripts that say Jesus, that's one variant from a base text. That's it. And so to say 500,000 sounds like an awful lot. But in most places, it's going to be a single manuscript that gets discounted, or a few late manuscripts, or it's spelling differences, something like that. So this 500,000, I've already mentioned how many ways you can say John loves Mary in Greek. And actually, I stopped at 384. There's probably about 500 ways to say it. You throw in a different verb for love, now it's about 1,000. It's just incredible how many variants you can have without affecting anything. So I think the real question becomes, what's the significance of these numbers? My estimates are that among the Greek manuscripts, less than 1/10 of 1% of all textual variants are both meaningful and viable. That is, they change the meaning of the text to some degree, and they could possibly go back to the original. But how meaningful are they? Not a single essential doctrine of the Christian faith is jeopardized by any textual variant. And let me tell you who said that. Bart Ehrman. Misquoted Jesus, paperback version, page 252, that came out in the summer of 2006. The publishers asked him this question: why do you disagree with your mentor, Bruce Metzger, about how cardinal doctrines were changed? And he said, well, no, they're not. But on radio shows, on TV and newspapers, the whole thrust of his book, it's about how the Orthodox scribes changed the theology of the New Testament. But when it really came down to that specific question, he had to say, no, they really didn't change it. Bart Ehrman said at one point that if he and Bruce Metzger were locked in a room and could not come out of that room until they decided what the Greek New Testament originally said, he said it really wouldn't take that long for them to get done because they disagree no more than about 24 places. What Ehrman has done is he's put an interpretive spin on these variants. But where he and I would disagree, maybe it's 50 places, maybe more, but not much more than that. So the text of the New Testament, most textual critics would say we are confident on well over 99% of it when you count all these variants. But there are places where we're not sure. I don't know if it's 666 or 616. There's a number of other places. I'm just not sure what the original text says, and they may be somewhat significant. But there's no essential doctrine that is jeopardized by any of these variants. Do we rest our Christian faith on the assured results of textual criticism? No. We rest our Christian faith on the Bible's witness to Christ, and it doesn't matter what manuscripts you have. They all affirm his death, his bodily resurrection, his deity, his miracles, and the fact that he atoned for our sins. That's where our faith is. And even if these manuscripts were not considered scripture, they would still have a great deal of historical authenticity. Even B.B. Warfield argued that even if the New Testament wasn't considered scripture, anybody could get saved reading them. And so there's whether textual critics have gotten it right or wrong. Let's say we're wrong about everything, and the King James Bible had it right. Okay. The Westminster Confession was written at about that time, and it hasn't changed. It was based on essentially the King James Bible. It's still what Presbyterians believe today, even though they're following modern translations. No cardinal doctrine. Not even a lot of the minor doctrines are affected. D.A. Carson, in fact, says, no doctrine of any sort, nor matter of practice for the Christian is jeopardized by any textual variant. I think that's a bit of an overstatement, but it's in the right track. The Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts, or CSNTM, is an institute that I founded in 2002. And you can remember those letters by CS as in C.S. Lewis, and NTM as in Anti-M of Wizard of Oz fame. And then you got csntm.org, that's our website. We originally started, it's a nonprofit institute that has as an initial goal to digitize every single Greek New Testament manuscript and post the images online, if we're permitted to do so. We've been to more than 40 sites throughout the world. We've photographed almost 500,000 pages of manuscripts. We use state-of-the-art equipment, and we're making accessible manuscripts that prior to this, scholars would have to go to Münster, Germany, and look at really poor quality microfilms. Even the institute in Münster that is publishing and has been publishing for 50 years the standard Greek New Testament now relies on our images for what they're doing in the future. So that's our initial goal, is to get these manuscripts published. We just finished a 2-year project at the National Library of Greece in Athens, where we signed a contract with them at their request to digitize their 300 Greek New Testament manuscripts, more than 150,000 pages of manuscripts. And we use state-of-the-art equipment that today, one image in TIFF format is more than 300 megabytes. 3 images, that's a gigabyte. These are just incredible photographs, and they are literally at least 100 times better than microfilms. It's just amazing. You can read the details of anything on these manuscripts, and seeing those details helps you to know how to date the manuscripts, what century it was written in. Our ultimate goal is to use these digital images in cooperation with other institutes to arrive at a more certain understanding of what the original text of the New Testament said. And that's where we're driving towards. And we're developing some software that's actually going to help us to mechanically read the text, that if humans did it, it would take, if one person were to read all the manuscripts and transcribe what they said, it would take 400 years. But with this optical character recognition software that's being developed for these manuscripts, one person could do it in 10 years. One person. And that would give us a 100% database of all the Greek New Testament manuscripts, what every single one of them says in every single place. That now you can start cross-referencing these and start seeing what the family relationships are that we haven't been able to detect as well before. So it's an exciting project. Ultimately, CSNTM is starting to stand at the head of the stream of all future translations of the New Testament, because we are the ones who feed these images to Münster and anybody else. There's other places now, Tyndale House and Cambridge and others that are producing their own Greek New Testaments, and they rely on our images to find out what those manuscripts have to say. That's very exciting. And so we're a tiny institute, but it has an international impact, and the Bibles of the 21st century are going to be based essentially on those images. We're continuing to go to sites all over the place. The manuscripts are in more than 250 sites throughout the world. And so we need to raise money to go to those sites, but we have the people, the training, we have the technology, and we need the funding to get into these places. We have discovered more than 90 Greek New Testament manuscripts since our foundation in 2002. That's more than all of the institutes in the world combined have discovered in the same period of time. It's very exciting to do this, and I think very helpful for the church too.